What's up guys, Kplayshere here. I guess we're officially entering the endgame for Monster Hunter Wilds news because we just got two nice info drops back to back this week. Not one, not two, but four gameplay videos from IGN and IGN Japan. And then not one, but 2 weekends with the beta in February announced. That's all your guys are getting for an intro. Capcom gave us 0 lead in for this week, so I won't be either. We'll talk about that announcement first here because I'm sure that like me, a lot of you have been itching to get back into the beta. I'm glad we're getting 2 separate weekends to enjoy it this time around because I'll be able to get a lot more time to play than I did last time. Oh, I missed you so much, Wilds. Didn't think I'd be able to get through another 2 months without some hands-on time. This time though, even though the balance changes and improvements won't be included unfortunately, it does seem like we're getting some new things in a few weeks. The first, Gypceros, a blast from the past monster from the OG first generation that most vets haven't seen since Generation Ultimate, and new 5th and 6th gen players will be seeing for the first time. Between Yonkutku, Kongalala, and now this goofy bird wyvern, the nostalgia is coming out in full force with Wild's returning monster picks so far. Who knows, maybe soon they'll even reveal something crazy like a Rathalos or something. Wouldn't that be wild, eh? But jokes aside, Gypceros. I'm excited to see how he'll look this time around because even though he's a relatively early game monster in the past games, he's had a few tricks up his sleeves. Blinding flashes that stun you, poison spit, a stretchy rubber tail, stealing items with pecks, and, well, I don't want to spoil that last one for anyone who hasn't encountered it themselves yet. You'll see. Just make sure that when you finally take it down, you run in as fast as you can and carve, okay? Now, for the players out there with the quote-unquote forbidden knowledge from the last beta, we may not be as surprised as everyone else at Gypceros' reveal, because as it turns out, it was pretty much completed in the game files and just waited to be turned on for beta round 2. Some people were even able to get the fight up and working themselves through a little computer magic, but since I never took part in the secret and limited beta, it'll still be fun to fight him myself officially. What's still a total mystery to leakers and the unaware majority alike though, is what this mysterious other content they're revealing later will be. The way I see it, if we're assuming that it's another monster, we've got 3 possible options here. The first is the keep it simple guess, Chemetries. We've seen a bit of gameplay of the fiery chicken already, but so far it's the only monster revealed for the Windward Plains that we weren't able to fight before ourselves. From the looks of this fight, it might only be a few steps up from Chatacabra in difficulty, but hey, more new monsters equals more new monsters. The problem is though, the hinting on the official site is all wrong for this to be the mystery monster. Why do a returning monster reveal, and then have the unknown be adding a monster we've seen already? Nah, I think while this could end up happening, it'd be a little odd with the way everything is lining up. Number 2 was more of my long shot conspiracy theory guess, Nerscylla. If you've gotten into Monster Hunter with the 5th generation games onwards, you might not recognize this name, so I'll put it this way. Nerscylla is nightmare fuel. Not only for us, but also for WoW's most recently revealed monster. See, the reason this could be our unknown inclusion is because it has a pretty gruesome connection with Gypceros. The original giant spider monster preys on the big rubber turkey, but not just in the typical kill it for food kind of way. No, after it makes a meal of Gypceros, or maybe even more scary, before, it'll skin it alive for its hide and wear it as a leather coat. A poncho of pain, if you will. The thick rubbery hide protects Nerscylla from thunder damage and blunt force trauma, on top of leaking poison that crystallizes on the spider's back in huge jagged spikes. Perfect match for its huge jagged extendable jaws. Yeah, this is absolutely not a monster for the squeamish. But with WoW's focus on ecology and building up the living, breathing world feel of Monster Hunter, it'd be a no-brainer to include both these monsters as a pair. In the full game, 100%, because it'd be cool to see that interesting bit of lore interaction that we talked about play out as far as they're willing to show for the more morbidly curious veteran hunters. As far as the beta goes though, well, what better shock factor would there be to have a gigantic spider monster ambush the Gypceros you're hunting because it's in the market for a new outfit? Now, number 3 is probably the one I want to happen the least, but if we're being realistic, it's probably the most likely outcome. It's going to be Arkveld. I mean, it fits the pattern of all the demos and betas over the past few years and titles. They always let us get a sneak peek at the flagship's fight. We get to fight Nair Gigante in World, Velkhana in Iceborne, Magnamalo in Rise, and Mazino in Sunbreak. Arkveld's got a lot at supporting the chances that we'll be able to encounter him for the first time in a few weeks. Honestly though, as hype as that'd be, I kinda don't want it to happen. And this is coming from a guy that eats up every last crumb of pre-release Monster Hunter info. I mean, shoot, leaks included, I even already know what Arkveld's gimmick most likely is. And I still don't want to fight him just yet. First encounter surprise factor is something you can miss out on sometimes with spoilers, whether it's peeking at the leaks when you're not supposed to, or from the official beta dropping the monster on the game cover into the demo weeks before release. Argveld is shaping up to be a very interesting monster concept that I wouldn't mind staying under wraps until we get to meet him in the context of the full story. No hints at what he does whatsoever, all the relevance of what he means to WoW's plot and or the Monster Hunter universe as a whole completely intact. So yeah, maybe break the cycle this time, Capcom. Fingers crossed it's not the White Wraith, because like I said, I eat up any and all Monster Hunter content pre-release. Even if I don't fight him myself, I'm probably going to be coming across content on him everywhere, unless I do a full media blackout, which is probably not going to happen. And let's be real, that's if I can resist the urge to just go in and take him on myself if he does end up in the beta. Since I'm creating content for a bigger audience than before now, that's prime video material. And also, curiosity, keeping me from being able to stay away. We'll see. Let me know what you guys think the next unknown extra content will be though, and if you'll be trying to duck the spoilers if it turns out to be Argveld. Speaking of new monsters though, we also need to talk about what we saw in the Oil Well Basin gameplay footage real quick. I absolutely love getting a look at our volcanic map in more detail than the past trailer could provide, on top of some of the full hunts against Rompopolo and Ajarakan. Looking at the return of the environmental heat that requires cool drinks to protect against, and deep pools of thick oil that you have to slowly wade through, let me just say, it's going to be great to have hunting horn songs to ignore all of that, proving again that the best weapon in Monster Hunter is the Dude Stick. And yes, I will be saying the same whenever they finally drop the inevitable cold weather map. Focusing on this one for the moment though, I gotta say that whether or not it was intentional, I'm really digging the contrast between the two monsters we got to see this week. Rompopolo leans hard into its gimmick. If you look at it, it kind of makes sense. The thing clearly is built to get up close and personal with its enemies. Like a third of what you see looking at it half the time is gas-filled balloons, so it's not exactly the sturdiest monster. No hefty jaws or stocky body like most other brute wyverns either. Instead, it's got that funky mosquito needle mouth and mantis arms that are kind of Frankensteined onto a lanky reptile body. That thing is built very interestingly. As we've seen though, it makes up for this by leaning fully into AoE damage and aerial denial. Breathing clouds of noxious gas isn't exactly a trick for new poison monsters, but injecting it into the oil on the ground to cause pressurized eruptions sure is. Fighting your way towards it while dodging constant long-distance explosions from below is in the name of the game for this one, and I gotta say, if you look at how Ajarakan manhandles it in Turf Wars, or consider how Black Flame is clearly the top dog in this area, all signs point to Rompopolo being at the bottom of the Oil Well Basin's large monster food chain. I'm not saying it's looking like it's going to be a crazy challenge or anything compared to what we've seen before, but for what's most likely going to end up being the first monster we come across here, it's doing some pretty impressive stuff. Now, Ajarakan on the other end seems to be roughly around the middle of the pack, and unlike the purple poison pumper over there, it is all about throwing hands with hunters. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't looking at another aggressive Monster Hunter monkey and not expecting it to be at least a bit like a flaming Rechang. But with all the differences between my expectations and reality after seeing the full fight, I'm pleasantly surprised. For one thing, it's not a fire monster like you'd expect seeing the flame-like spikes on its back. No, Ajarakan is actually our first blast monster we see in Romuald's roster. Not counting its pink cousin when it's had a bit too many spicy mushrooms, of course. Always love to see some status monsters, and with Blast crossed off the list, now all we need to see is something that inflicts sleep. I've got my fingers crossed there, because so far all of the ways monsters have been approaching their gimmicks have been very unique. Just take Ajarakan's Blast Blight for example. It uses its rough metallic shell to drag and scrape across things, igniting anything flammable like the oil on the ground to sling burning dust and molten rock at you. All while trying to pound you into the dirt, of course, so anything even remotely resembling a long-range attack is purely coincidental. It literally just tries to hit you so hard that the floor melts and bursts out to you in waves, and it's amazing if you ask me. And when that thing gets enraged, oof, what a spectacle. The way Ajarakan uses its tail like a flint to fling sparks and heat up its back, all while it claws to the ground and beats its chest for even more heat and friction, is a crazy good threat display. Top tier animation right there. Seriously, and the attacks it throws at you after are no less stunning. From that grapple where it just cooks you alive with its body heat before mashing you into the floor, to that crazy revving up spin into a powerbomb so forceful it lodges half its body into solid rock. I cannot wait to fight this thing. It might sound like I'm gassing up Ajarakan more than Rompopolo, no pun intended, but I actually like them both in their own ways. More tricky gimmick spam and straight up hyper aggression fights hit different, and I think it'll be great to have a wide variety of different gameplay experiences. And I'm talking about the current lineup as a whole, not just these two. So far, every single monster looks like it'll be giving us hunters a totally unique experience. I can't wait to see them more and get my hands on them myself. Again, except for Arkveld. That one I'm fine with waiting just a little bit longer for. How have you guys been taking the info drops this week though? With February 28th creeping closer and closer every day, I'm expecting news drops like this to happen more and more frequently, so buckle in folks. We're getting into the most fun part of this ride. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if we got more to cover as early as next week, since IGN coverage makes me think that they've got a few more gameplay drops up their sleeve. Here's hoping. But until we see whatever there is in store for us next, this has been another Kplays, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.